Welcome to the Comicstorian channel, where we take some of your favorite comic books, video games, and movies, and we break down the lore within them into an audio drama, allowing you to follow along with your favorite plot lines, even if you've got other things going on. Today, we're actually going to be covering one of my more recent favorite independent books. This is the story of Skyward. It's a post-apocalyptic world if things didn't suck. Basically is what it boils down to. I can't say much more about it, but I'm giving you the first 6 issues of it, and we'll give you a link to buy the follow-on ones down below if you want to keep going with the storyline. Enjoy Skyward. Nate leans in to kiss his daughter as she lays down for a nap, telling her to sleep tight. She doesn't want to stir in her crib as he leaves the room. Downstairs, his wife Lily is preparing to go out for a run, wondering how he put Willa down to sleep so easily. She leaves, and Nate sits down for a morning cup of coffee and a bowl of sugary cereal. He curses as he knocks over his favorite mug, but the sound of shattering glass doesn't reach him because that mug begins to float, the hot coffee bubbling in the air around it. It's happening. Nobody believed, but I was right, he gasps, astonished. Glancing out the front window, he sees a dog float by and a look of terror on its face, and Lily! He tries to run for the door, but his movement sends him bounding into the air, forcing him to bounce off the ceiling. He pushes off, managing to reach the door and pull it open. The neighborhood around him is beginning to float away. Cars, people, everything. The world no longer has gravity. Lily! He screams as he sees his wife holding desperately to a lamppost. She doesn't know what's going on, but she thinks that she can reach him. He calls for her to stop, to stay where she is. But she pushes off, flying towards the front door. She's almost there, their hands almost touching. But she doesn't make it. Something snags her foot, and she begins to float away. Nate readies himself. I'm coming for you! He screams, but suddenly the cries of Willa from her room reach his ears. He turns, floating back into the house, finding his baby girl floating in her room, a look of wonder on her face. 20 years later, Willa zips along the skyways of the city as a member of the Rocket Messenger Group. Tethers run from building to building, making sure that people don't float away. She finds her landing pad and her friend Joanne inside. The two exchange good mornings and laugh over a sign that Joanne found. What could it possibly mean? Moving into the building, Willa stops to talk to her friend Edison. He's a little older than her, and she wants to know what it was like when the world had gravity. What it was like to walk on the ground. Willa feels terrible because she forgot that Edison can't tell her, having never had the use of his legs below the knee. G-Day was the best thing that could have happened to him, and he floats through the air now free. Her boss, Shirley, comes in with a delivery that's a rush job, so Willa grabs for it, offering to take it away. Hooking the package to her, she leaps out of the building into the free air. Zipping through the city, she rounds the corner into the shiny blade of a knife. Stop right there. Give me the package, the thief sneers, when suddenly there's another one behind her blocking her escape. Normally, Willa would just hand it over, but this package, it's more important, and her job's on the line. Get out of my way before I hurt you, she orders them, reaching into her bag. She pulls out a pistol, pointing it at them, and for a second, the thieves freeze. Then they start to laugh. You're bluffing! No one uses guns anymore, it'll send you flying. Willa smiles, pointing the gun downward. That's the idea. The gunshot launches her upward into the sky, and at first her flight is straight, but she quickly begins to cartwheel out of control. Staying calm, she tells herself to just grab onto something, but she misses the ledge, and she begins to float higher and higher into the sky, past anything that could be used to stop her ascent. The city lays below her now, the sun shining in the clear day. Wow, it's beautiful. This is it, her last chance. So she points the gun into the air, pulling the trigger. She launches herself back towards the earth, slamming hard onto a rooftop, shockingly, the one that she needs to make the delivery on as well. The package is safe, and as the children come out with their teacher, Willa begins to pass out the milk. Fastest delivery in town. You're welcome. Later at home, Willa finds her father working out with resistance bands, trying to keep his muscles in shape. Globes of sweat float through the room, and Willa waves her hand to get them away from her. She tells her father that she wants to get out of the city. They've lived in Chicago ever since G-Day. She wants to see the world. Nate agrees. The world shouldn't be this way, and she should be able to travel and see it. Good, we agree. But no, it's too dangerous to leave the city. The sky kills, and one wrong step means death. I should have never let you leave this apartment, Nate tells her. The two begin to fight and argue, her wanting to leave, but Nate too scared to leave the apartment. And Nate tells her that the entire world is upside down. Tell me something I don't know, Willa yells. Nate does. He knows how to fix it. He holds up a journal. He used to study the gravitational field around the planet. They found tiny anomalies. At first, they were excited, but it turned out that everything that we knew about gravity was wrong. It wasn't constant. Willa stares stunned at her father. You can fix it? You can save the world? Why hasn't he ever mentioned this before? I think so. Yes, he answers, showing her the journal. She stops, remembering that her father is all kinds of crazy. She doesn't think that that's a fair assessment, though. To demonstrate, she opens the door, showing her father the world outside. But he lurches back, yelling for her to close the door. What happened to saving the world? She asks as her father curls up in the fetal position on the floor. She leaves, offering that her father should work on leaving the apartment before he thinks about saving the world as she closes the door behind her. Back at work, Willa floats upside down. I'm never getting out of Chicago, she sighs. Shirley doesn't know why she would even want to leave. Does she even know what it's like out there? Willa doesn't, but that's the point. She wants to see the world. I wasn't in the city on G-Day, you know, Shirley tells her. They had to make it 100 miles across flat ground with no gravity. Lost lots of good people. So many just floated up and never stopped. Willa knows what it's like, but they know how to handle it now. They have gear to help. She just thinks that Willa should go easy on her father. Everyone deals with tragedy in their own way. Look at Roger, she nods as the billionaire comes on TV. Willa is shocked. You know Roger Barrow? Same as your dad. We worked together. They both knew that G-Day was coming. Nate tried to prevent it while Roger got rich off of it. Willa thinks that if they were that close, maybe he can help her talk some sense into her father. Edison floats in and Shirley asks for his help in talking sense into Willa. Edison wisely decides to stay out of it. So that night, Willa sits on a building with her friend Joanne. What are the streets like? But Joanne isn't an expert, she just cleans houses. Joanne admits that it's weird, like the whole city is in denial about the world that they live in now. Willa floats down, descending into the brightly lit streets. People are walking, cars are buzzing along, and it's like the world never changed. People stare as she floats by them, finally stopping at the entrance to the Barrow building. Are you on the list? The large bouncer asks. Willa smiles as she tells him that she isn't on the list, but Barrow is a friend of her father's, and she just needs a moment of his time. The bouncer stares. Is that a gun? He asks as he begins to speak into his mic, calling for backup about an armed intruder. Willa backs up, trying to explain as more guards begin to arrive. She begins to float away, but one of the guards grabs her by the leg, refusing to let go. Willa grabs his taser, stabbing it into his magnetic boots, shorting them out. And the guard begins to scream as he floats away. Somebody grab me! Willa floats away, using this distraction as a way to get out of there, and she's suddenly pulled into the shadows by Edison as more police with jetpacks show up. She thanks him for his help, but Edison isn't done yet, and he gives her his mag boots to help her blend in. She's shocked. Mag boots cost a fortune. And I don't need them, so they're yours now. After putting them on, it's her first time walking, and Willa is stomping down the street, bringing almost as many looks as when she floated by. She waves to everyone as she slips into the party, and there she quickly finds Roger Barrow, so she makes her way over. His assistant doesn't want to let her pass through, and she's forced to yell across the crowd. My father is Nathan Fowler! But that name? It brings Barrow to a stop. He turns back to the strange girl. Nate is alive? He takes her under his arm, leading her across the room, and he asks how Nate is, what he has told her about when they work together. But Barrow has another meeting, so he asks her to wait until he finishes and he'll be right back. As he leaves, his assistant asks who is Nate Fowler. And he responds with, he's been hiding from me for the last 20 years. Now his daughter is going to lead me right to him so I could strangle him with my bare hands. 20 years ago, Roger Barrow floats in the front of the office window and watches the world drift away before his eyes. A man floats past, reaching out his hand, hoping for help, his tears drifting upward as droplets of water. And Barrow watches as he floats away. Walking down the hallways of his office building now, Barrow explains to Willa that he tried to save as many as he could. The real danger came after G-Day, though, when mankind almost went extinct. They had to adapt to this new world, rethink farming, irrigation, production. Everything relied on one thing: gravity. If Nate had been at his side, it would have gone so much better. She explains what happened to her father, about how he can't leave his apartment. She thought that seeing his old friend might help. Maybe he would stop raving about fixing the world. But Barrow says that he believes that Nate could really fix the world. Nate had been working on a cure for a long time, but Roger didn't know what it was and Nate didn't trust him. Why didn't he need to trust you? Willa asks. Roger thinks that they should go ask him themselves. But Willa knows that her father is private and she should go talk to him first. Prep him for Roger's visit. Suddenly, her mag boots lock in place. She is suddenly stuck, and Barrow throws a punch, cracking Willa across the jaw. "Tell me where your father is! You don't understand!" Another blow to the head comes her way. "Tell me!" And the punches continue to rain on her as Barrow explains. He made his fortune off of G-Day in the world after. If things went back to the way they were, he would have nothing. Willa seems dazed, her head lolling back. Barrow gets too close and she throws her head forward, colliding with his nose. He stumbles back, trying to warn off his guard, who doesn't listen, and electricity courses through Willa's body as the guard uses his taser on her. She shrugs it off though, floating away as her mag boots begin to short circuit. "Thanks." Barrow screams to his men to get her, deactivating his own boots and launching himself into the air after her. But after she's already gone, all they find around the corner are her discarded mag boots. Willa bursts through the side door, trying desperately to escape back to Upper City, where she is free, but every corner reveals the police. Luckily, she sees Joanne emptying trash outside. Joanne isn't able to hide her though, which is why she needs her to help sneak home. Minutes later, Joanne is wheeling a hidden Willa inside of a laundry bin who won't shut up. She orders Joanne to stop, seeing a painting of their friend Edison. She didn't know that he was rich, and Joanne lets her know that he didn't want anyone to find out because his family forces him to stay in his wheelchair when he isn't in the city above. Everyone here refuses to acknowledge the way the world has become, including forcing a kid who doesn't need a wheelchair anymore to sit in one. Joanne and Willa continue to move through the building, floating up through the elevator shaft that no longer needs an actual elevator. Moving through the building, they avoid the guards that are still looking for them. And finally, they are stopped by a patrol who insists that they have to search the laundry. Springing forward, Willa grabs Joanne by the throat before the guards can do anything. Thanking her quietly, she launches her at the guards, making good her escape. Avoiding the rushing patrol, she finally makes her way out and into the open air. Quickly floating home, she is startled to find the window open. She rushes in, but the apartment is trashed, with droplets of blood floating among the debris. Willa floats through the wreckage. This is all her fault. When suddenly she hears a moan coming from the closet. She opens the door to reveal. "Wait, I know you! You tried to rob me!" she cries as she finds the thief tied up and bruised. His friends grab her from behind, refusing to let her go because, "You need to protect me!" Suddenly, Nate comes floating up, ordering the thug to step away from his daughter. They just wanted the milk shipment, not whatever they got involved in. Willa stops listening and manages to punch the thug in the nose, breaking his hold. Nate is okay. The two thugs thought they had the jump on him. One tries to argue, but quiets down when Nate tells him that talking gets him more punches. "Barrow isn't here yet?" she asks, bringing nothing but surprise from her father. What has she done? "We have to get out of here," she tells her father, moving towards the door. Nate isn't leaving though. He can take Roger Barrow. "Do you know how to fix the world, Dad?" she questions her father. He does. There's a place they need to go. A trip that he has been planning for the last 20 years. Roger Barrow doesn't want him to fix it though, and he'll kill him to stop that. Nate can't leave. So Willa begins to argue with her father. "I can't!" he screams. "I don't have a condition." On G-Day, Nate could have saved Willa's mother. He could have stopped her from floating away. But he heard Willa's cries. He should have saved Lily. Willa was indoors. She would have been fine. If he steps out the door now, he'll have to admit to himself that he was just a coward that day. Willa is stunned. She's shocked to discover this. She hugs her father. They'll stay, and they'll figure it out. And then when he's not looking, she drifts behind him, cracking him over the head with a lamp when he's not looking. Stuffing her father into a duffel bag, she heads back out into the sky. Arriving at work, she greets Shirley, letting her know that this is hard to explain. She unzips the bag, revealing her father. Yet, Shirley's not fazed at all. "They've kidnapped him," she tells her, tears floating up in her eyes. "Edison. What did they say?" Willa stammers. She has something they want, and if she delivers it to them by the end of the day, Edison will be fine. Nate comes back to consciousness with a gasp, sitting up rapidly. "Shirley? Where am I?" he stammers with a confused look on his face. Questions begin to spill out of his mouth as he floats towards a shelf, grabbing hold for dear life. He asks for his daughter, and Shirley points him to the next room. Willa sits, floating upside down, staring out the window. All she wanted was to see the world. Might have been selfish, but how did she screw up so badly? If Nate really can fix the world, isn't that more important than Edison? He's just a kid. He doesn't deserve to be wrapped up in all of this, Willa agrees. They have no choice. It's time to escape. She won't turn in her father, and she can't leave Edison captured. So I'll save him. Nate can't let her do that though, but since he can't go outside, there really isn't anything he can do about that. Later, Willa searches through some boxes for the equipment that she needs. Burroughs won't be expecting her to do anything crazy with the storm coming. It'll be easy. With everyone distracted by the storm, she can swoop in and grab Edison. Easy peasy. And that's when they notice the drops of water floating through the air. She slips back into the next room to find Nate gone, his journal on the table. He went outside despite his fear. Suddenly, Willa looks up. He's never been outside and he doesn't know what the storms are like. Outside, Nate launches himself over to the next building, clinging on for dear life, fear written all over his face, and he looks up stunned. What the hell is that? The massive floating water bubble seems to take over the horizon before him, drifting almost lazily. That's not so scary. Suddenly, the bubble drifts over him and he's enveloped by it. Willa launches herself through the air into the bubble with an air tank on her back and a look of determination in her eyes. Nate drifts away unconscious. Swimming through the bubble, she quickly grabs her father, taking off her air tank. She opens up the nozzle, creating a bubble of oxygen for the both of them. A quick Heimlich brings Nate back to the world of the living. Where are we? He gasps. Willa explains that they are inside of an air pocket within a rainstorm. Nate theorized that this is what a storm would look like after G-Day, but seeing it is something else entirely. Willa wants to get her father back inside, but he refuses. He insists that he is coming with her. Also, he has a plan. Meanwhile, Roger Barrow looks out of his office window. Edison tied to a chair behind him, flanked by guards. Edison tells him that Willa isn't coming, but a slap on the glass shows that, well, Edison is wrong. She holds up a note that simply states, "Run." She points a gun at the window and Burroughs just laughs. Guns don't work underwater. As if reading his lips, she takes out her rebreather, creating an air pocket. She points the gun and pulls the trigger. The glass shatters, allowing the bubble of a rainstorm to drift into the room. The guards run and Burroughs yells to them not to leave him. His shoes begin to short out as they shut the doors behind them. "So your plan was for us all to drown?" Edison asks as Willa unties him. But two quick tugs on her tether and they are yanked away, with the image of Burroughs screaming for help as the storm envelops him. At the last second, he reaches for the discarded air tank. Nate pulls his daughter and Edison to safety, with Willa wanting to go back for Burroughs, but it's too late. He's gone. Suddenly, Burroughs is there punching Edison out of the way, grabbing her. "Hi, Nate! Long time no see!" He snarls, locking his arm around Willa's throat, pushing the gun to her head. Nate tries to talk him down. This is between the two of them. It doesn't have anything to do with his daughter. Nate doesn't want to change the world back. He doesn't want to take away everything that Burroughs has. "I don't believe you," Roger states, aiming the gun. But Willa knocks his hand down with the force of the gunshot, sending them both into the air. "We're gonna die! You're an idiot!" Burroughs cries as Willa tries to get the gun, but instead it is knocked away. And now they have no gun, and they really are going to drift off into space. Burroughs kicks off of her though, knocking her further into the sky, but this sends him back down towards the earth below. As she floats higher and higher, the air grows thin around her, and she closes her eyes. "I've got you." Her eyes open, and her father is there holding her in his arms. "Your mother would be proud of the woman that you've become." He passes her his journal, and he tells her to read it, to fix what he couldn't. Then, he kisses her on the forehead. "Goodbye, Willa." He throws her back down to the earth, drifting away into the atmosphere. "You were right. The world is beautiful." She impacts hard onto the rooftop, struggling to watch as her father drifts away, her tears floating upward, following him to the sky. And there you have it, one of my favorite independent books coming out right now. It's such a unique idea. No gravity, the world is over, but is it? No, humanity can push through. There's a lot of cool ideas and stuff that gets thrown into here. Now, I don't really intend on doing the rest of this, simply because it's probably not going to perform well on our YouTube channel. I did want to do this video so that some people who are looking for independent books can check out one of my favorite storylines and get on board with it, because it does follow on. After we've now seen what is going on in the city, the storyline goes outside of the city. Do you see how the rest of the world is coping with the lack of gravity? It's a really good plot. I really do enjoy it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of the storyline down below. And don't forget, you can follow this channel by clicking subscribe and then hitting that little bell, because YouTube does a really bad job of telling you when my videos come out unless you hit the bell. Subbing isn't enough anymore. Go figure. Anyway, guys, I'll see you next time.